Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we are back to working on the Jimmy Diresta Bandsaw project, and I'm glad to be back on this project and glad to be making some progress with it again. Previously, we had made a new upper bandsaw wheel shaft. We poured the babbitt bearings for that upper shaft. Today's project is to get this whole upper assembly reassembled, put back together, back on the machine, so that we can make sure everything's going to work good up there. So I've pretty much already previously, we've already cleaned and painted the casting. I've already taken everything apart. It had already been sandblasted. Pretty much all the parts have been painted. It's just been sitting waiting to get the new shaft done and the bearings done before we could put all this back together. And again, that's the game plan today. So without further ado, let's start putting this thing back together. So the first piece to go back in here is there's this bar that serves as a lever. There's a counterweight on this that pivots right here on this point, and it basically keeps some upward pressure on the upper wheel up here. So you always got that wheel being tight, and this kind of just feeds in from the back here. Here it comes. And we got a bolt right here that should go into that hole. Got to find the hole here. There it goes. And then it just threads into the casting behind it. And I'm just going to take a socket here and we'll tighten that up. All right. And that's all there is to it. So there's a screw that comes up here and there's a little shoulder on it, and that's going to ride on this. And like I said, you got that counterweight, just putting a little bit of upward tension on that so that you've always got a little spring in that, the tension on your wheel, and got a little bit of pressure on there. You can adjust it up and down with a hand wheel, but this just puts that little spring pressure in there as well. All right, next we need to get that shaft installed. But before we do that, I need to work on the hand wheel that goes on the bottom of it. Kind of started the process, but let me show you what we're doing. I got the hand wheel mounted up over here in the lathe. We're going to spin it up. What I'm trying to do is polish this outer rim. And to do that, I'm just using a random orbital sander here. And I've got some 80 grit sandpaper in here. And we're just going to slowly sand this out. I will say that over here on this side, I'm watching real close to make sure I don't get into my chuck. But I got a good bit of polishing, sanding here to go before we're going to have this thing looking nice. But this is kind of the process. I'll bring you guys back here in a little bit once we get it looking a little bit nicer. Slight change of plans, guys. I went to using the angle grinder with some flap disc. I got to looking and I had some flap disc in different grits. I started out with a 40 grit. I went to a 60 grit. I didn't have an 80 grit, but I'm in a 120 grit right now, and this is doing it much faster. It's still going to leave it kind of coarse. We're going to probably have to finish it up with some sanding, but I've about got all the little pits and stuff out. And I just started on the 120 grit. Yeah, that's making short work of it. So that's still a good bit rougher than what I want it to be. I wish I had a 220 grit flap disc. I don't have one, but I think I can go back to the random orbital sander now and finish this out. Let me see if I can get a little bit finer grit on it, and we'll continue on. That was a 120 grit I was just using with the angle grinder. And I'm going to start here with a 120 grit on the random orbital sander. I think this will get a little bit finer polish on it. And then we'll go to something even finer until we get what we're looking for. I can see it changing the looks of it. Yeah, that's smoothing it out a good bit. I've still got some fairly deep scratch marks in there I need to work out. So let me just continue on with this. But that's making a lot of progress. Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit of I can almost see my reflection in this as I'm going. So probably about to move up to something a little bit finer. Back to the angle grinder. This time I have a Scotch-Brite flap wheel in here. I've got a coarse, medium, and fine. This is a coarse one. So we're just going to kind of finish polishing this. Again, Scotch-Brite disc in there. This is a medium grit, they call it on the Scotch-Brite, so more polishing, and we're just going to go to that. It's looking really good. I'm very happy with the results so far. Going to a fine grit now. Oh yeah. That looks beautiful. I'm going to some 600 grit sandpaper now. I don't know how well you can see that in the video, but that is polished out pretty nice. I can't say it's just absolutely perfect, but it looks so much better than it did when it was just rough and had pits all in it and everything else a while ago. That nice shining surface on the outside, I'll probably spray it with a clear coat so it won't rust up again, but that's going to really stand out and look nice against the black on that machine, and make that hand wheel a little bit more noticeable, I think. I like it. When I put that shaft up through this hole a little while ago, I noticed that it was had a little bit of junk up in here. I think it's mostly body filler and paint, etc. I've got these big reamers I just picked up. It was in my recent odds and ends video. This big Navy set that goes up to 1.25 inches. So what I'm going to do is just run a reamer up through this, and you can see that's body filler that has cleaned it out of there that we got on there when we were working on painting this thing. But don't need that interference in there. I need a nice, smooth transition in there, or shaft or hole for that shaft to go in. So we're just going to ream this out by hand and get it. Maybe a little bit of cast iron coming out there with it, but mostly just all the junk from the finishing process. All right, I'm going to get that cleaned out, and we'll be ready to put our shaft in. Decided to go at it from the top side. I had room in here to get my socket in there. Kind of turn this with, and we are just about through the bottom, but I can see all kinds of junk that has come out of this thing that was going to give me interference. So yeah, we're pretty much flush with the bottom now. Ready to put the shaft in. I'm going to put just a little bit of grease on this shaft, just a real light coating, not much at all, but I'll just give it a little bit of lube in there, and we'll drop that right down in place. And I need to go a little bit deeper with my grease so I can see. Let's do that again here. All right. So on this shaft, there is a little detent there. That fits the set screw. It's going to come up in there. We'll go ahead and put our nicely polished hand wheel up on here. And I'm in that hole right there. Tighten that up on there. Here we go. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Back over here with my grease. And what I want to do is I want to put a little lube in here. There's a piece that's going to go up and down inside this slot. And I want to make sure we got some lubrication in here to help that slide up and down before we put this in here. So we're just going to lube it up real good. This is just some Teflon grease that I keep in the shop just for these kinds of applications. Also want to put some grease on this screw because it's going to be going up and down. That's what's going to adjust the height of this piece here that holds the bearing for the top wheel, and tightens the blade. So we'll make sure we got some lube in here as well, and I'm going to lube it pretty liberally here. That should be plenty. And now I think we're ready to see if we can set that piece in there. This is the piece. There's the screw hole. We got some bosses on this other side that will hold the bearing fixture. Let me get this in there and get that down on the screw. And we'll start screwing it down here. All right, there are two plates that clamp on here, and that holds all that in place. Let me get those installed, and we'll check it out real good here. A little grease here on this surface here that's going to be sliding up and down. And we got some plates. Little bolt on here. Not sure which plate goes on which side. Let's see if they line up better on one side than the other. I believe this one goes on this side. We'll go ahead and get a couple of screws started in here. I will say that I went in off camera and ran a tap down each one of these holes just to clean it up. So have good threads I'm going in on. Let me get the other one on and we'll tighten that up. All right, I think we got all those tightened up. And that is still going up and down. It's a little bit tight, but it's going. So we're going to leave it. Actually, that's not too bad at all. All right, I'm going to bring it down. I think it's just tight at the top because you see very little motion up there. That's actually slick as can be right there. Oh yeah, that feels real good. About ready to put our bearing assembly in. There's a pin that goes down through this, and it's just a little bit tight. It's actually going to float on that pin. So again, I went and grabbed a 5/8 inch reamer out of my brand new reamer set I just got, and I'm going to run it down through there. And it's just got a little junk and paint and whatever in there, I think. And now, yeah, that looks good. So like I said, it's going to pivot on that. The ends are a little bit tighter. It'll hold it in place, and we're ready to put this in. So the bearing housing is going to fit up in between these two bosses. The pin's going to go through here, and it is going to pivot in here. So again, I'm going to put a little bit of grease on this area where it's going to come in contact. So a little bit of lube isn't going to hurt on these mating moving parts. And let's see if we can, I'm going to have to take the bearing caps off to get that in there. Let's try that again. Come through here. All right, I've got a copper hammer I want to drive that pin home with. All right, I think we got it going now. All right, that's the pivot point. Go ahead and put my bearing caps back on. I'm just going to start these. Not going to crank them all the way down because we still got to install the shaft in these, which I'm not quite ready to put that in there yet. But I want to be ready when the time comes. Here is a small set screw here that screws in right here, and what that does is that captures that pin on the inside there, keeps it from coming out either way. There's also a little adjustment screw here on the side, and this just puts some sidewards pressure on this just to take any slop out. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of snug it up. I want to be able to adjust, but take some of that out. And there's a jam nut on here, so I'm going to run that up against the inside there. And there's also a bolt that goes in right here that its whole purpose is basically to adjust the angle of this wheel. So you got the weight of the wheel wanting to kind of pull it down on this side, and you can run the set screw in and out, and it kind of gives it the bottoms it out. What is that good for? That is good for tracking the blade. You want the blade, you want that to kind of tilt that in and out to get your blade running just exactly right, get it in alignment with the wheel below it. So that's what this is for. And it's got a handle on here where you can adjust it from the front of the saw. So I'm gonna go ahead and just screw it in. And once we kind of get it in there, the way this handle works is you can, of course, you won't be able to turn it a whole circle like this when the wheel's on there. I'm using it for leverage right now, but it's got a little cam where you can engage it in those cogs, or you can pull it out to adjust it up to the next spot. So, you know, right now, we're bottoming out about right there. As I turn that in, you see it adjusting the wheel down. And again, once you get this on the saw, it'll be tight, and this handle will be kind of just sticking out in the front, and you can come in there and grab a notch, adjust it up, or pull it out to figure out where you want it to be. Right now, it's just going to be kind of hanging here, but that's all right. And with that, I think we have our upper wheel bearing assembly all reinstalled back on here. Very happy with how this turned out. It seems to be adjusting up and down very easily, which is good. Everything went together really well. I do need to get in here with some paint these screw heads and some other little odds and ends on it. I'll get to do that off camera. But very, very nice. Like I said, this thing was pretty much froze up whenever we started taking it apart. So just a good cleaning, some lubrication, little tweak here and there, and things look a lot better. And I really like that polished wheel on the outside of this hand wheel. It feels good to the touch. And again, it just kind of stands out a little bit so you can see it instead of just all being black and kind of blending into the machine. And that shine really looks good. Like I said, I'm going to hit that with some clear lacquer or something like that so it doesn't tarnish and rust up too bad. But yep, I think we got this step knocked out. Guys, with that, that's going to be a wrap. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up, comments, always greatly appreciated. It helps feed the algorithms over on YouTube. It helps get my site discovered by other people. So I really appreciate it if you'll do those little things for me. Also, a big, huge thank you out there for every guys who support the site through Patreon, PayPal, etc. I could not take the time it takes to make all these videos and put it out there if it was not for some of your contributions that you guys make. That's what really makes it possible for me to take the extra time to create these videos. And I really do appreciate you guys that do that as well. If you can. If you can't, just enjoy the videos. But really do appreciate those that can. With that, we're going to sign off. As always, again, thanks for watching.